غرباء 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 غرباء.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهدي الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه. أما بعد. Inshallah, after 2 days, after tomorrow, I'll be traveling to Toronto, Canada, bi-idhnillah. So today is going to be the last class until I think next Tuesday or next Sunday, bi-idhnillah. Many of the students have been coming to me in the last few days, the last week actually, about an issue that we just want to shed a little bit of light on, because we don't like dealing with these issues in detail, as many times they're just a waste of time. And because I'm going to be traveling, inshallah, you never know what's going to happen during your trip. So we would like to give some tawjihat and some irshad, direction, some nur. What is the position of al-Islam concerning what we're seeing? Some of these people who have this issue about writing bayans. There's nothing wrong with writing a bayan. A person makes a mistake in a dars or a khutbah. Something is seen from that individual, something happens, he falls into something that's contradictory to the religion of Islam, then there's no problem with that individual rectifying what was said or rectifying what was done, especially when it was done in public, and especially when it's touching multiple people. That's a sign usually of a person's humility. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But what we see today in some of these bayans, and the bayan that I'm referring to today is the bayan that's a bayan of innovation, actually. It's a bayan of the mafia, where the people force you to write something out of fear. You write something to please other people, as opposed to taking a position and holding your position for Allah, being a person of a tawheed, and not being afraid of the censorship and the criticisms of your mothers, your fathers, your aunties, kuffar, Muslims, the Sheikh, or anybody else for that matter. So one of the benefits of having a tawheed is that when a person worships Allah alone, then he's not afraid of anyone but Allah. He lets the chips fall where they may. That doesn't mean he walks around being arrogant and proud. That doesn't mean that at all. But he doesn't take positions to please his Sheikh. He doesn't take positions to please his family. He doesn't take positions to please his relative. Everybody here has been in a position where people have not agreed with you on what you were trying to do. When you want to get married, the relatives want to force you to do something that's against the religion. They want to take pictures, for an example, of your wife and the other men who are not her maharam come in and shake her hands, and they hug her and they kiss her, and the people are mixing, and your aunties and relatives put pressure on you. So in order not to rock the boat, the person is just quiet as a result of that. Can't be people who are like that. We have to be people who have hikmah, and we don't want to rock the boat unnecessarily, but when it comes to issues like this, you have to take a position, you have to take a stance. Allah will test you, as He tested the righteous people before us, from the prophets and from the messengers and from the awliya. You're going to be tested, and if you think you're going to be a Muslim in this dunya, you live in it and exit this dunya without being tried, your deen, your principles, then you're fooling yourself. It's from the sunnah of Allah to be tested and to be tried. So for those students who kept coming to me, and I was delaying this issue, prolonging this issue, I travel a lot, I have a lot of things going on, I said, okay, I'll take this opportunity just for maybe 20, 25 minutes. We'll deal with this from the angle of the kitab and from the angle of the sunnah, which is our practice. That's our religion. That's what we're upon. We don't see the religion, the statements of men. Sheikh is not a dalil in this religion. What any imam says is not the dalil. Someone says to you, where's the proof that this halal or haram? And the person says, Al-Imam Abu Hanifa said. That's not a dalil. Al-Imam Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah ta'ala wa radiyallahu anhu, is a great scholar of al-Islam, but he is not a nabi. And with him being that on that level of al-Islam, what about the people who are lesser than him, like everybody who's living today? No scholar today is like Al-Imam Abu Hanifa, for an example. So the dalil is not the Sheikh said, the madhab said, my masjid said, I heard that. The dalil is Allah said and His Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And in addition to that, the companions understood. So you brothers, my first advice is leave these people alone. As the scholars tell us during these days, turn yourselves to beneficial knowledge. Learn how to read the Qur'an with tajweed. Learn how to memorize the Qur'an. Learn the Arabic language. Memorize 40 hadith of Al-Imam An-Nawawi. Read Riyadh al-Salihin. Read Usul al-Sunnah of Al-Imam Ahmed. Read Sharh al-Sunnah of Al-Imam al-Barbahari. Read Bulugh al-Maram of Al-Imam Ibn Hajar. All of these books and all of these issues that are treasures of knowledge and benefit, real benefit, as opposed to he said this and she said that and that sheikh said this and that sheikh said that. It's a waste of time. So concerning these bayans, the mafia bayan, where people are forcing people to take positions and even writing for them bayans, and the du'afa, they are afraid and they do it. They do it. This is something that's not from the religion. No one here has to have a position concerning some of these personalities in the dunya today who Muslims are having ikhtilaf about. You don't have to have a position about Abu Fulan or Abu Ilan. You don't have to have a position. Allah is not going to ask you Yawm al-Qiyamah. What is your position about a Sheikh Ali Hassan al-Halabi? Allah is not going to ask you about that Yawm al-Qiyamah. Abu Hassan al-Ma'rabi, what's your position concerning him? Allah is not going to ask you about that. What you're going to be asked about is, you're going to be asked, who is your Lord? You're going to be asked, what was your religion? What did you have to say about that man who came, sallallahu alaihi wasallam? You're going to be asked about your salah. You're going to be asked about birr walidain. You're going to be asked about where your money came from. 5 things your feet are not going to move until you're asked about. Your youth. You're going to be asked about your youth. Your money, how you got it, how you spent it. You're going to be asked about your knowledge. You're not going to be asked, what was your position? What's your mawqif? What do you have to say about Abu Hassan al-Ma'rabi? It's kalam farigh. Kalam farigh. And in addition to that, some scholars, major scholars themselves, they have ikhtilaf in this issue. Leave them to have those ikhtilafs and leave us to do the things that are in front of our nose, like becoming better Muslims, becoming better people. That's a big jihad in and of itself. But what I wanted to share with you brothers is the proof that you don't have to have any position about these issues. And people who are testing other people about these issues, don't go to Green Lane Masjid because Green Lane Masjid, they cooperate with this group or that group, or they don't have a position against this person or that person. That is not a Salafiyah. That's Hizbiyah. That's a bid'ah. That's not what the companions were upon. And then the people take statements, ayat, ahadith, positions of the Salaf out of context, and they want to pass it off as being the minhaj of the companions. La wallahi. The companion Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu said, كيف بكم إذا لبستكم فتنة يهرم فيها الكبير ويربو فيها الصغير ويتخذها الناس سنة إذا غيرت منها شيء قيل غيرت السنة. Abdullah bin Mas'ud, who was in Iraq, where there was a lot of fitna, a lot of innovation, and that's why you have so many statements of Ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu concerning the minhaj al-Salafi, how it is to be on the sunnah. You have many statements from him because he was in a place of a lot of trials and tribulations. He said to those tabi'een, and we have to ask ourselves the same question, how is the situation going to be when the fitna hits you people? And the fitna is to the severity and the degree where a person who's older is going to become old. He's going to become senile because of the fitna. He doesn't know which way to turn. Things are double standards. He doesn't know what's going on. Things are not making sense. People who don't know are talking. All kind of madness and drama. He said that old people will become senile and the young people will crawl. The young people will crawl. They have something to say. They don't deserve to say anything. He said, and during that time of the fitna, the innovation will be taken as the sunnah. The innovation will become the sunnah. And if anything is changed about that innovation, people will say the sunnah has been changed. The sunnah has been changed. Some people have the opinion that testing people about individuals is from the sunnah, the minhaj as-salafi. Al-jarh wa ta'deel, and teaching it to brand new Muslims is the minhaj of the salaf. And to say this is not from the minhaj, they say you're against al-jarh wa ta'deel. Not against al-jarh wa ta'deel, nor are we against testing people. Who do we test the people about? We test the people when we say to the people, what's your position concerning the companions? What's your position concerning the great scholars of Islam? As for an individual who most of the people don't even know, a localized fitna, and then you come and say the Salaf tested the people. No, they didn't test the people about people who are unknown like this. You test the people when there's a need. Just don't meet someone for the first time. I don't know this brother. I don't know him at all. I come and ask him, what do you think about Abu al-Hasan al-Ma'rabi? And based upon his answer, I love him or I reject him. I bring him close or I put him away. And the man doesn't even know. That's not our religion. How is it going to be the time of the fitna when it happens? And if anything is changed from it, people are going to say the sunnah has been changed. That's the time that we're living in right now. We can't sit with the people of innovation. Don't sit with the people of innovation. The Salaf didn't sit with people of innovation. That's true. But what's the understanding of that? The companions who made mistakes of innovations, like the one who said, I'm never going to get married to women. And the one who said, I'm going to fast all day. And the one who said, I'm going to pray all night. Those are innovations. The ones who wanted to castrate themselves so that they can devote their time to the worship of Allah. That's an innovation. Some of them fell into statements of innovation and statements of kufr. Did the Prophet say, we can't mix with them, we don't mix with them? No, it doesn't mean that at all. So these statements and these positions of the companions and the people who came after the companions, they have a backdrop. And we have to look at these issues through the prism of the details and variables that are going on in the situation. How are we going to give dawah to our religion, to our relatives, to our neighbors, to the people who we know, if the issue is we don't mix with innovators? Yeah, we don't mix with innovators, but what does that mean? That has a meaning to it. You don't mix with the Dajjal. Don't go to the Dajjal to see what he has to say and to learn with him and to sit with him. And if a person is on the way of that kind of craziness, that kind of inhiraf, that kind of innovation, you don't go to listen and learn from the guy, from the minhaj of the Qur'an. No, you don't sit with those people like that. As for your relative who doesn't know his ankle bone from his elbow in the religion, he's growing up on innovation, he doesn't have any knowledge, and they invite you to their masjid or to their ISAC in the university or whatever, and you have the ability to call to the pristine, pure religion of Islam without them putting any conditions on you and without you compromising your religion, who in his right mind wouldn't want to take advantage of that? And how would the religion and the sunnah spread if we didn't take advantage of that? As for these people putting conditions on you, as for these people compromising and make you compromise the principles of the sunnah and the deen, then no, why? You don't go and you don't do it in those issues. The Prophet ﷺ dealt with the people. He wasn't living on an island by himself. He went into contracts with non-Muslims. He dealt with them, giving them da'wah Allah when they wanted him to make shirk with Allah, when they wanted him to hold back some of his da'wah. He said, no, lakum deenakum waliya deen. As for meeting them, going to them, he called them to al-Islam. So sitting with people of innovation, it has its dawabit, and it is an issue that is knowledge-based, not something that just people are talking about to make tanfir and to make hajr of people, to boycott people for no reason. I want to read to you, brothers, a few examples from the Salaf. Leaves no doubt, no doubt. You don't have to have a position about these issues and about these people. This is the way that the companions were upon. And again, we reference our religion back to the Qur'an and the Sunnah with the understanding of those companions. They had fitna, they went through fitna, like what was conducted by Imam al-Bukhari, rahimahullah ta'ala. And inside al-Bukhari is hadith number 4,650. 4,650. On the authority of Nafi', who said that Abdullah ibn Umar radiyallahu anhu was approached by a man, and there was fitna going on. the fighting that Ali was having with Muawiyah. The companions were fighting each other at that time. Uthman Dhu Nurayn radiyallahu anhum ajma'in had been killed. Some of Uthman's relatives wanted revenge and they didn't give Ali the bay'ah. Aisha, Talha, they were saying, we want to get these people. Ali ibn Abi Talib was saying, no, you give me the bay'ah, we're going to get those people. It was a big fitna between the companions, not to mention with the other people. This man, in the middle of all of that, he came to Abdullah ibn Umar radiyallahu anhu. He said, Abu Abdurrahman ibn Umar, I want to ask you a question. I want to know, did you hear the statement in which Allah Ta'ala mentioned in the Qur'an in Surah Al-Hujurat, when طَائِفَتَانِ مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ اقْتَتَلُوا فَأَصْلِحُوا بَيْنَهُمَا فَإِن بَغَتْ إِحْدَاهُمَا عَلَى الْأُخْرَى فَقَاتِلُوا الَّتِي تَبْغِي حَتَّى تَفِيَ إِلَى أَمْرِ اللَّهِ فَإِن فَاءَتْ فَأَصْلِحُوا بَيْنَهُمَا بِالْعَدْلِ وَأَقْسِطُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُقْسِطِينَ. Did you hear this ayat, Abdullah ibn Umar? Allah said, if there are two warring factions from the believers, if they're fighting each other, you people get involved and make peace between them. And if they don't make peace and one insists on keep going, then all of you should fight against the one that is continuously being the oppressor. So make peace between them with al-adl, with justice and fairness, because Allah loves those who are fair and just. So the man said to Abdullah ibn Umar, who this ayat was revealed on, those companions, the man said to him, the man is not a companion. He said, I want to know, why aren't you fighting in this issue with Ali and Muawiyah and the rest of them? Why are you staying back? Why are you not getting involved? Why all we hear you doing is giving advice to tell the people, everybody disengage. That's what Ibn Umar was doing. Ibn Umar didn't get on Ali's side. Ibn Umar didn't get on Muawiyah's side. He was telling the people, disengage. This is fitna, don't do it. So the man was blaming him for that. Abdullah ibn Umar radiyallahu anhu said to the guy in a nice way, Ya ibn ammi, ya ibn akhi, hey, son of my brother. He could have said, hey, jahil, hey, stupid. I'm the one, I'm a companion. The Qur'an came on me. I know the meaning of this ayah. He said, hey, my nephew, son of my brother. He said, for me to be criticized with this ayah, you criticizing me with this ayah, and I'm not fighting, and as a result, you're criticizing me with this ayah. He said, I prefer that than to be criticized with an ayah in Surah An-Nisa. Well, Allah Ta'ala mentioned in that ayah, وَمَن يَقْتُلْ مُؤْمِنًا مُتَعَمِّدًا فَجَزَاؤُهُ جَهَنَّمْ خَالِدًا فِيهَا وَغَضِبَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَلَعَنَهُ وَأَعَدَّ لَهُ عَذَابًا عَظِيمًا. Allah said, anyone who kills a believer intentionally, he's going to be in the hellfire and he's going to be there, and Allah is going to be angry with him, and Allah is going to curse him, and Allah is prepared for the murderer of a believer intentionally a grievous penalty. He says, so look, that ayat is more beloved to me. The fact that you're criticizing me for the ayat, not getting involved with these people, this other ayat is more beloved to me. I'm not getting involved with that issue. The man, he got upset. He said to the companion who understands the religion, to the scholar, he said, but didn't you hear? And don't you know that Allah has commanded you to get involved and you have to fight? Allah said in the Qur'an, وَقَاتِلُوا حَتَّى لَا تَكُونُوا فِتْنَةً. Fight until there's no fitna. There's fitna between these two sides. So Ibn Umar, you have to get involved and you have to fight because Allah commanded you to fight. Abdullah ibn Umar told that man, listen, we used to fight during the time of the Nabi. We used to fight the non-Muslims when there was fitna. And when we started fighting, one of us would be put to trials and tribulations. We were killed. We were taken as captives. Some of us, we were successful. And that's when Islam was a little. And then Islam grew and it spread, and then there was no more fitna. So I know the ayat. We fought and there was no fitna. The man, he went on to say, after he saw that Ibn Umar wasn't listening to what he was saying, and he couldn't trick Abdullah ibn Umar, the man said to Ibn Umar, okay, what's your position about Uthman? What's your position about Ali? He said, my position about Uthman and Ali. What do you mean, my position about Uthman and Ali? He wanted to know, where did you stand? Who's right, who's wrong? What do you mean, my position about Uthman and Ali? He said, as for Uthman, you want to know my position? Allah forgave him forgave him for not participating in the wars. He had reasons, he didn't participate, Allah forgave him. And you people didn't like that Allah forgave him. He said, as for Ali, Ali is the cousin of the Nabi, and he's also the husband of his daughter. So what do you mean, what do I think about him? And he didn't take any position in the issue. He's right, he's wrong. He didn't take any position. But that comes and it shows us, Ikhwani, an important issue, number of issues. One of them is people take the ayats of the Qur'an and they understand them the way they understand them, and based upon their understanding, they'll get involved and they'll do with things the wrong way. This issue shows us we have to understand these texts of the Qur'an and the Sunnah the way those companions understood it. Abdullah bin Umar was not using the Qur'an to support getting involved in killing other Muslims. He understood it another way. Those ayat were revealed on him. They were revealed because of him and those other companions, and he had the pristine and the crystal clear understanding of those ayat. But the main point of all of that kalam is he didn't get involved. He didn't have an opinion. You don't have to have an opinion. You don't have to have an opinion. If you have knowledge about these issues, you won't be afraid of people putting pressure on you. Now it just goes back to your personality. Are you one of those weak people could put pressure on you? But in terms of knowledge, you don't have to get involved. Another example that everybody knows about is the issue also in Sahih Bukhari. After the death of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu became the Khalifa. He was the Khalifa for about 2 years and some change. One of the main wars that transpired during the time of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was the War of Al-Yamama, in which the companions were fighting against Usamah at-Thahabi. Usamah at-Thahabi was saying that he was a Nabi and a Rasul, and he made a lot of fitna. Abu Bakr fought against him, and he's from the people of innovation, from the people of kufr and fasad and fitna. In that war of Yamama, many of the Qur'an and the Huffaz of the companions were killed. Over 70 of them, which was a large number, radiyallahu anhum ajma'in. After the war, Umar radiyallahu anhu came to Abu Bakr and he said, look, Abu Bakr, you need to do something about this Qur'an, which was not in a book form yet. It wasn't a mushaf. People memorize it in their hearts, in their head. You need to do something about this Qur'an, because if we keep going like this, all of the people who memorize the Qur'an will be killed, and then the Qur'an is going to be lost. It's from the benefit to the Muslims, the maslahah for the Muslims. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu said, how do you expect me to do something that the Prophet didn't do? Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Abu Bakr was on the Sunnah. He was a man of the Sunnah. He didn't care what people said. What the Sunnah said, that's what Abu Bakr was doing. The Prophet died, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and before dying, he sent the army of Usamah out to get the enemy. The army was almost in the middle way to their golden objective when the Prophet died, and the news hit them and they stopped. The people said to Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, oh, he didn't even send them yet. They said, don't send the army out because the Nabi died. We need to keep the people in Medina so we can protect Medina. Abu Bakr said, I will not untie a knot that the Prophet tied. Prophet sent that army, I'm going to send that army. What are you people talking about? All of the people said, don't send the army. We need to be protected in Medina. He said, the Nabi wanted to send that army, I'm sending that army. People used to give the zakat. They said, okay, we're not going to give you the zakat. Abu Bakr said, I'm going to fight those people. If they used to give the Nabi zakat, and it's time for them to give me the zakat, and they just hold back a little bit, just this hat, they hold it back, I'm going to fight them. It was on the Sunnah. Anyway, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, concerning the suggestion of Umar, he said, how do you think I'm going to do something, bring the Qur'an together in the book? The Nabi didn't do that. You have to bring the dalil, Umar. Don't tell us about your virtues. All of those virtues that the Prophet said about you, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you have to bring your dalil. You by yourself, Umar, your statement by yourself is not dalil. And I don't mean to be disrespectful by doing like this. Umar's statement by itself is not a dalil. Abu Bakr's statement by itself, not a dalil. Uthman, Umar, not a dalil. Abu Hanifa, Al-Imam Ahmed, not a dalil. You have to bring the proof. Your Sheikh has to bring the proof. Hadir, Nadir, Al-Khatam, Yarmi. Don't come and say, it's in that book, it's in that book. The Sheikh said, but we've been doing it for 1,000,000 years. That's not a dalil. You have to bring the proof. Raf'ul yadayn, bring the proof. The Sheikh, we don't do it in our madhab. Because this hadith, if the hadith is weak, it's not a dalil, it's not a proof. So Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu told Umar, bring the proof. Umar started giving him proofs. Started reading ayahs of the Qur'an. Didn't Allah say in the beginning of the Qur'an, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ, this is the book that has no doubt. It's in our hearts. It's not a book, it's in our hearts. That's a proof that it should be a book. Didn't Allah say in the Qur'an, وَنَزَّلْنَا عَلَيْكَ الْكِتَابِ تِبْيَانًا لِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ, we revealed to you, Ya Muhammad, a book that makes everything clear. He started telling them, didn't the Nabi tell us, don't travel to the land of the enemy with the Mus'haf? He said, we have to travel in order to fight. We traveled to Yamama, that war where the people were killed. We didn't travel with the Mus'haf. The Mus'haf is in our hearts, in our minds. It's talking about bringing a physical book that if you travel with it, the non-Muslims can disrespect it. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was convinced of what Umar was saying with proofs. He said, it's a good idea. Who should we get to do it? And this is the point, Ikhwani. They went to a boy by the name of Zayd ibn Harith, Zayd ibn Thabit. Zayd ibn Thabit, he grew up in Mecca. His father was killed in Mecca, but he was from the people of Al-Medina. After his father was killed, he went back to Al-Medina and he was about 11 years old, 12 years old. When he went back to Medina, the Prophet came to Medina. They both arrived in Medina about the relatively same time. Zayd ibn Thabit was only 12, 11 years old. The Prophet stayed in Medina sallallahu alaihi wasallam for 10 years. So when the Nabi died, Zayd ibn Thabit was 21, 22 years old. The time where our kids graduate from the university. 21, 22. Abu Bakr was 61. Umar was 60. Those companions were old. This was a young boy. He was one of the main scribes for the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When ayahs used to be revealed, he knew how to read and write. He was one of the people the Nabi would say, come Zayd, and he would read to him the ayat, and Zayd would write it down, showing that he was a person who had integrity. He was ameen, he was thiqa. The Jews used to write letters to the Prophet in their own language, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet didn't trust them. He couldn't read their language. He told Zayd, I want you to go and to learn their language. Sahih Bukhari, Zayd ibn Thabit learned the language of the Jews, a new language, in a little bit over 2 weeks. Miracle from Allah and a dalil of the abqariyah of the boy, the aqliyah of the boy. He was a genius, intelligent. He was just not some regular person. And he was from the ulama of the Qur'an. He was from those companions who memorized the Qur'an. He was from those companions who heard the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam recite the Qur'an to Jibril the last Ramadan. Every Ramadan, Rasulullah would read the Qur'an to Jibril once every year. And the year that he died, Rasulullah read the Qur'an twice over Jibril. Zayd ibn Thabit heard both of those recitations. He was young. He knew what he was doing. Abu Bakr and Umar said, let's choose him. Let's choose him. They came to him and they put the suggestion to him. Zayd ibn Thabit said, La wallahi, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. They said, why? He said, because the Prophet didn't do it. He said, for you to ask me to move a mountain from one place to the other place is easier for me than to try to do something that the Prophet didn't do. That goes to show, Ikhwani, in this religion, when it comes to what you believe, you young brothers, what you believe about your religion, Hazir Nazir, does the Nabi know the ilm al-ghayb? Did the Prophet die? Whatever you're going to believe in the aqeedah of this religion, any ibadah in this religion, don't put your foot forward 1 inch until you have proof. Not just an ayat, not just a hadith, but you have an ayat and you have an example of how the companions understood that ayat in the way that you want to use it, or the way that the person is telling you to use it. Zayd ibn Thabit, you young brothers, he wasn't afraid of Abu Bakr and Umar. He respected them, but their personality didn't prevent him from saying, no, I don't care, you're my father, you're my mother, you're my uncle, you're the relatives, you're the whole system. I don't care. I'm not going to do that. That's not from the religion. Just imagine this in an airplane. An airplane, 747. There's the senior pilot, 60 years old. He has an impeccable career and history in driving those planes. He's logged in tens of thousands of miles. And then you have a young co-pilot. He's only 30, he's only 28. He has a few years. He's the co-pilot. As they're flying, something goes wrong. And it's clear to the younger person that the older guy is making a mistake. But he says, I have to respect him. I'm not going to say anything. I think the plane is going to crash, or he's compromising the safety of the plane and the passengers. 400 passengers on the plane. I'm shy to say the truth. No, his profession tells him if he doesn't say something and something happens and they land that plane, but there were some discrepancies with how he behaved, he'll lose his job. They're going to hold him to a standard in professionalism. The religion is more important than that. The religion is more important than that. Zayd ibn Thabit said, I'm not doing it. So they begin to do with him the same thing that Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu did with Umar, by giving them the proofs and giving them the dalil. After he was convinced, he said, okay, I'll do it. Okay, I'll do it. He didn't write anything because someone told him write something. He didn't do that. You write things when the proof, the religion is telling you to do those things. You have a religious responsibility to make something clear. Do it because you believe in it. How are you going to write something and free yourself to please a sheikh or please a human being? In the story of Khidr and Musa, Allah mentioned that Khidr, Musa said to Yusha, the young boy, when they were traveling, قال لفتاه آتنا غداءنا لقد لقينا في سفرنا نصبا. He said to his young boy, hey, bring our food now, because this trip that we've taken, there's a lot of nasab. I'm tired. We've been overcome with nasab. That means to be very tired. He went and he got the food and they ate, and that's where the fish went out. Some of the scholars who have deep insight into the Qur'an, they said one of the benefits of this story here, what was said here, is that when you travel in the earth for a human being, for a makhluk, you travel in the earth to meet someone, to see someone, and your niyat could be good. He has knowledge, but you're really into the personality. You're traveling for that human being, you're going to be tired. But when your travel is only for Allah, your umrah, your hajj is only for Allah, the fatigue that you suffer and that you go through, it's not like the fatigue and the suffering that you go through when your goal and your objective is, I have to go to Mecca to see Sheikh so-and-so because it's a proof and it's an indication of my being a clear Salafi. Shahada kalam. The last example, Ikhwani, from the Tabi'een, and we're going to deal with this individual and some of his mawaqif in the fitna, inshallah, in the classes after we finish the Nabi al-Rahmah series. He's from the Tabi'een. I want you guys to remember his name and go back on the internet, the YouTube, try to look him up. Not on the YouTube, but on the Wikipedia and the Google. His name is Mutarrif ibn Abdullah ibn Shakhir. Mutarrif ibn Abdullah ibn al-Shakhir. He was from the Tabi'een. His father, Abdullah ibn al-Shakhir, was a companion. His father was the companion who narrated the hadith about describing the salat of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that when he used to pray, he used to have a voice coming out of his chest that sounded like he was sad. When he used to pray, they can hear the sorrow or something that was overtaking him in his prayer. They can hear a voice coming out of his chest. This companion, Abdullah ibn Shakhir, radiyallahu anhu, he narrated this hadith. His son, Mutarrif, did not meet Rasulullah. He met the companions, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, radiyallahu anhum ajma'een. He was known for his zuhd and his ibadah and his knowledge. His zuhd and his ibadah and his knowledge. And during his lifetime from the Tabi'een, he dealt with a lot of trials and tribulations. From them, the fitna of Abdullah ibn Zubair, the companion, radiallahu anhu. The fitna that he had with Al-Hajjaj. This man, Mutarraf, was saved from the fitna because of his knowledge, bi'idhnillah, the way he dealt with the situation. He dealt with the fitna of Ibn al-Ash'ath. He was a person who made khuruj against Al-Hajjaj in Al-Madinah. He revolted against Al-Hajjaj because Al-Hajjaj Ibn Yusuf al-Thaqafi was making a lot of fitna, killing people, fitna and fasad. This religious man, he galvanized the support of many of the people of Medina, and he made khuruj with them against this man, Ibn al-Ash'ath. And Ibn al-Ash'ath killed the people of Medina. From them, hundreds of companions lost their lives. Hundreds of companions lost their lives. The people of Medina. And they shouldn't have made khuruj against this man. They shouldn't have made khuruj. This man, Mutarraf, was saved from this because of his taqwa, his knowledge, his zuhd, his ibadah. He went into a majlis of the people of knowledge, and when he came in, they were happy to see him. They said, okay, this is a good sign. He said, what's going on? They said, we decided amongst ourselves, everyone sitting here in this assembly, during that time of fitna, during that time, and Ash'ath, he's killing people. So we decide we have to change this bad behavior of this man. So look, we all have to agree and take an oath. We all gonna take an oath that any evil thing we see, we're gonna stop it, and this and that and this and that. Do you agree? He say, yeah, I agree. You agree? Yeah, I agree. You agree? Yeah, I agree. You agree? Everyone gave the bay'ah. Yeah, I agree. Gave the bay'ah. When they came to Mutarraf, they say, you agree? Mutarraf said, I don't agree with that. Hold on. The bay'ah is a religious issue. It's been explained in the Qur'an and the Sunnah. The Prophet taught us how to take the bay'ah. We take the bay'ah upon issues that we know are from our religion. As for a group of people sitting in an assembly like this and giving a bay'ah for something, where does that come from? Like the Ikhwan al-Muslimin today, they do these types of bay'ah. In the Isaac, you do the bay'ah for the leader there. In the masjid, you do the bay'ah. And then you give a bay'ah and another bay'ah and so forth and so on. Jamaat al-Tabligh, these types of bay'ahs are not from the deen of Allah. The bay'ah to the Sheikh of a Sufiya, you don't find that with the companions. He said, I don't see in the Qur'an, the Sunnah, this type of bay'ah. He said, you people are on the verge of creating for yourselves some serious situations. And he got up and he left. And sure enough, Al-Ash'ath, Ibn al-Ash'ath came, and from the people who he decimated and killed were those people who were there. Those people who were there. What's the point again? What's the point here? What's the point? The Salaf were very careful, Ikhwani, about supporting things that there was no dalil for you to support. Taking positions, there's no dalil for that position. Al-Imam Mutarraf ibn Abdullah bin Shakhir, he wasn't afraid of all of those people who were there. I have to be with them. He didn't get tricked with this idea, what they're doing is a good thing. He didn't do that. He said, I don't know what you're doing as being supported from the Kitab and the Sunnah. And I don't care who you are and how many people you happen to be. That's the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal. So don't allow people to force you to take positions for or against in anything. In anything. You like him, you say, what you think about this? It can be a mundane issue. And you give him the answer that you think he wants. Take your time and think about it and give your own answer. You may be right, you may be wrong, but don't be a person who is a copycat, a muqallid, I'm going to do what the people are doing. You have your own mind, you have your own intellect. Make up your own mind and don't be afraid of making a mistake. Now, before concluding, that doesn't mean that we're ulama, we don't pay attention and respect the ulama. That doesn't mean that. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying that by any stretch of the imagination. But a scholar is not a dalil in and of itself. A scholar is not a proof in and of himself. It's not our religion. So if a scholar is forcing you to make a bayan and to free yourself from this one or that one, then there's something wrong with you if you do it. Unless you're being compelled for your dunya or something, your deen, you don't want fitna. And if that is the case, then we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for al-afiyah and for the Sadat. This is what we wanted to present in the way of this advice. Turn to beneficial knowledge, ikhwani, and leave alone these issues that are simply a waste of time. The beneficial knowledge will help you to recognize and to acknowledge and to know what's right, what's wrong, and what's the way to deal with it. When you don't have knowledge, you're shocked and you don't know what you're doing, and then you fall into failing the test that Allah gave to you in that particular issue. Whatever it is, how to look at issues, it is a ni'mah from Allah to be endowed with knowledge and you know what you're doing. And I don't say claiming that I have knowledge and you guys don't have knowledge. There's a general call that we all have a responsibility. Learn our religion, and then we'll be in a position to know how to assess situations, who to support, who not to support, when to remain silent, when to get involved, when not to get involved, what's going to cause us unnecessary and undue stress and drama, and what we don't have the right to not get involved in or with. Analyze A'la and A'lam. For those of you who want to go back to that hadith in Sahih Bukhari that shows this minhaj point, again it's 4,650. 4,650. If you brothers have any questions concerning this issue, inshallah, you can put your questions forward. Now, and if you don't have any questions, that's all right as well. هل عندكم شيء؟ Okay, هذا وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
غرباء غرباء غرباء